President Trump says he has instructed his lawyers to scour through America's museums to rid them of exhibits he considers woke, specifically citing exhibits on slavery. President Trump targeted the Smithsonian museums, saying they are, quote, out of control, where everything discussed is how horrible our country is, how bad slavery was, and how unaccomplished the downtrodden have been. Back in March, the president signed an executive order directing the Smithsonian Institution, which runs more than 20 museums in Washington and elsewhere, to, quote, celebrate American exceptionalism and remove divisive or partisan narratives.
I was actually surprised to see President Trump basically saying the quiet part out loud, that this review of the Smithsonian is not about even just something vague about reviewing history to make sure that it's fair. He wants to make it so that it talks less about slavery. What does that say to you?
Well, I think it's an effort. It's part of a larger effort to both sanewash and whitewash American history and essentially erase all of the parts and disappear all of the parts that make Americans, that make President Trump uncomfortable, that feel distasteful, that are a reflection of the actual real and horrific parts of our history. And I find it a little ironic. You know, earlier today, as I was listening to some of the commentary, my first thought was, wait a second. I wonder if the president has actually ever visited any of the Smithsonian museums. And then I remembered that in 2017, he actually took a tour of the National Museum of African American History and Culture.
Let me just play, actually, what he said during that tour. Listen to this.
I had the privilege of visiting the National Museum of African American History and Culture right here in Washington, D.C. It's a new, beautiful Smithsonian museum that serves as a shining example of African Americans' incredible contributions to our culture, our society, and our history. It also tells of the great struggle for freedom and equality that prevailed against the sins of slavery and the injustice of discrimination. The work and love of the people who helped create such a masterpiece is a testament to the legacy of so many leaders it honors.
But why is this in the Smithsonian? So it's been completely captured.
First of all, I don't.
And it's totally partisan.
First of all, we don't have time to litigate all of this.
Of course we don't, because then you're going to lose the argument.
No.
Everything is racialized, just like you're trying to do to me now.
Excuse me.
It's like, I can't believe you're trying to suggest, that slavery is a good thing.
You brought up race.
No,
this was a conversation about the arts, and you brought up race.
It isn't.
You brought up.
But the whole point of this is that the issue
you brought up slavery, and you brought up the question of whether. You brought up the question of whether or not slavery in the United States is about race. The answer is yes.
Of course. I did not say
in the United States
don't
is
straw man
about
my argument.
The Trump administration is hell-bent on sending us all back to the dark ages. You know what I'm saying? DEI, just fire them all. If it's black and brown people in these jobs, just fire them. Get rid of them. Get them out of here. We don't want them.
And the warrior ethos is simple. It's readiness, accountability, lethality, warfighting. None of this woke DEI, CRT, gender pronoun, green new scam stuff. That's all out. Ideology is out. Capabilities, colorblind, merit-based, back to basics. It really is a back to basics message.
Really quick questions. Do you think that Holocaust education in our schools is a DEI program? There's no card for that. That's just yes or no.
I can look at whatever card
Holocaust education, is it a DEI? You can have a press conference to say whatever you want. I just need a quick answer to this.
Your soliloquy
is Holocaust, because this is my time, is Holocaust education a DEI program?
No.
Is African American Studies a DEI program?
I think I answered that with one of
I'm
the
asking
other
it again.
callers. Listen, we should
just yes or no.
We should be able to teach courses.
My point is they are DEI programs, both of them, because students need diversity, equity, and inclusion to understand their environments. So both Holocaust education and the teaching of African American history are important, which is why the state of Connecticut requires it in our social studies curriculum. You're talking out of both sides of your mouth. You can't support one without supporting the other. And looking at what happens in the schools and actually deferring to teachers, parents who are on curriculum committees, local boards of education, and states who actually do the hard work, and listening to what they say would be incredibly helpful in this role.
Women, who needs voting? Who needs women in the voting process? Just get them out of here.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think
They're meant to have babies. That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
There are some who have gone so far as to say that they want the 19th Amendment repealed.
I would support that. And I'd support it on the basis that the atomization that comes with our current system is not good for humans.
And Wilson, a veteran himself, is unapologetic about his view that women shouldn't be in certain leadership or combat roles.
Looking at the leadership page for Christ Church,
Right.
It's all men. Do you accept women in leadership roles in the church and in government?
In the church, no.
Why?
Because the Bible says not to.
Well, that's not what happens in the Bible. Women do lead all the time.
Burn the books, fake news, everything. We know the game.
From what I understand, the objection to my books is that they were classified by this one parent as adult romance, which is very interesting because I do not write adult romance. And in fact, of the books that were challenged, one of them is a book called The Storyteller, which is about the Holocaust and about the rise of fascism among ordinary Germans. And there's not even a kiss in that book. So I was quite confused.
Parents, when they're sending their kids to school, they should not have to worry about this garbage being in the schools.
LGBTQIA books they deem to be critical race theory, but were actually books on the history of racism, slavery in the United States, or representing Black voices, were overwhelmingly being targeted by these demands to remove books.
But one of the biggest problems that the Trump administration has is everything's out of their control. Just like in his first term, COVID, over 1 million people in this country died, and that number didn't have to be that high. Perhaps it could have been a few 100,000 had he not dismantled our response system and pretended that COVID wasn't a big deal when it was. But even outside of that, this go around, Donald Trump's failed to deliver on his promise to not start any wars, to end all the wars, to raise people's wages and incomes. He's failed on all of that. With his tariffs, prices are rising, inflation's rising. The big beautiful bill stripped Medicaid away from 17 million Medicaid recipients over the next 10 years. And he's completely destroying our relationships with our allies around the country. The United States' dominance over the global trade system, over the rest of the world is over. That day is over. Europe has caught up. China has caught up. And much of the rest of the world is caught up as well. We're not able to just bully people around and tell them what to do anymore. And Donald Trump basically is the face of the downfall of the American empire. And as he continues to mishandle both domestic issues and international issues, his popularity is going to continue to tank. Just since Inauguration Day, he's lost 27 points with the youth vote, 18 to 29. He's underwater with all the issues. This isn't going to stop. So, he can try to burn and ban the books and take all the DEI out of everything. And they can do all that. But at the end of the day, they really have already lost the war.